The pitch, he swings, there's a drive to left, it's deep, it is way back, and it is gone! A two-run homer by Trammell, a 2-0 lead for the Tigers in the first inning.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rooster Crows podcast. I'm Rob Deere. We have a very, very special show today. One of my all-time favorite teammates that I ever have. And I just want to say, Alan Trammell, it's a true pleasure to have you here today. And I know you've been busy. You're in Lakeland, Florida with the Tigers, and it's a real honor to have you here. Thanks.
I appreciate that, Rob. We chatted recently. You told me that you were doing the podcast, and I said, you know what? I think we can make this work. And just so happened that today is the day, and happy to always talk baseball, or always happy to talk baseball with an old teammate.
Yeah.
And let's do it.
I enjoyed our time a couple of years ago when I was in Florida for spring training. I went to Lakeland and got a chance to sit and talk to you for a while. And I got to talk to Shemake and just a lot of people that I haven't seen. And it was just, I couldn't believe how different Lakeland, how different the ballpark was. Crazy.
Well, I can tell you this, Rob, that since you were there a couple of years ago, we just completed another phase. And I'm going to try to describe it to a certain degree just so the fans can get a kind of feel. But over the years, I mean, I've been coming down to Lakeland. My first spring training here in Lakeland was 1977. So that tells you that that was a long time ago, and I'm a little bit older. But the phases that they've went through all have been obviously things that have been needed. But the latest upgrade has been a covered roof for indoor infield defense. It's AstroTurf, but we've had some rain down here and some wind, and so when the weather gets kind of to the other way, we can get our work in. And so in the past we weren't able to do that. Along with that, they built a new batting cage for the major league side that's quality controlled, which means that's got air conditioning. And that Florida State League team plays here during the summer when it gets really, really hot and rainy. They'll be able to use that and, in some comfort and still get their work in. And then they have 2 10 packs, which is the pitching mounds, 10 for the minor league, 10 for the major league. So, and they're covered kind of like the new wave. You've seen some of the new ones in Arizona where the pitchers are covered, the catchers are covered, and then they can throw in, when it's raining and again, inclement.
It's unbelievable.
So, and then they're going to blow up, at some point they're going to the Fetzer Hall, which is the dorms that have been here since 1966. And they've done a few things, upgrades, but not many. And then the cafeteria. So this is a whole new renovation for Tiger Town, and all for the best. Chris Illich, our owner, and the new team, Scott Harris, our president, Jeff Greenberg, our new GM, they're at the forefront of making the Tigers a state of the art, and they've done a tremendous job and are getting better and better.
Yeah, I wanna say this, and I have to read this because I have been waiting 10 days since we last talked, or a week or whatever. And if I missed something, I want you to correct me. But to be able to read this is amazing. And I want viewers to really understand what you have meant to baseball and how important baseball is. But I want to just say these few things. And if I get this wrong, you can correct me, but I have done my homework on you. 20 years in the same organization. And obviously, we all know that you are the marquee player for the Detroit Tigers. And that's something well-deserved on your part. You're an all-star, 6-time all-star. You have been a major league coach. You have been a major league manager. You were an MVP, remarkable because you only get to pick one player, World Series champion, and now you're a Hall of Famer. Like that's pretty remarkable.
I was MVP of the World Series. I was close one year in 1987 when we played against each other, when George Bell of the Toronto Blue Jays won the MVP of the regular season. But I'll take that World Series MVP and the World Series championship. I mean, that's not to make light of anything. George Bell had a tremendous year, and the fact that you read those statistics, and what I'm really most proud of is the 20 years with one team, and out of those 20, 19 of those were with my partner, Lou Whitaker, our second baseman,
Exactly.
which is
Yes.
a major league record, that, you never say never, records are made to be broken, but highly unlikely that 2 middle infielders will ever play that long together, and,
Yes.
when we were doing that, Rob, I mean, you were there for 3 years with us, it was Whitaker and Trammell and Trammell and Whitaker, and we were just doing our jobs, but
Exactly.
when you get older and you look back on things, this it's very cool, very special that we were able to do that, and again, the longest, running double play combination in the history of baseball, so we're both very proud of that, and, it just the story about, Lou and Tramp coming up the same day, getting hits our
Yeah, it's
very
just
first time.
remarkable.
It just really how close our numbers were, and, you know, fortunately, and I feel so lucky to be part of the Hall of Fame, but when I say this, it should be
You
with
want you
her right next to me, and,
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna
I
continue to
get that.
try
And
to
that and
lobby whatever I can do,
yeah,
to help that cause because I truly believe in my heart that he's a Hall of Famer as well.
I'm with you. Lou Whitaker is a Hall of Famer. And, I think that Dave Parker just got in, so that
Correct.
was,
Yep.
a lot of things are going good with that. And,
Yep,
but I
you played with Dave and, again, for whatever
loved
reason,
him.
sometimes, guys get overlooked, and I was selected along with Jack Morse, the same year in 2018 by the Veterans Committee, and now they call it the New Era, but that's okay. I mean, Dave Parker and Dick Allen coming in this year,
Yeah,
on the veteran side, uh, and then also, obviously, we've got, Ichiro this year coming in,
I
which will
saw
be,
that.
I'm hearing like there's a record, crowd that they're anticipating, and, Billy Wagner, and who else? I'm drawing a blank.
There's one other, and I can't
Uh,
remember, but I remember Ichiro Wagner. Um,
oh my gosh, that's embarrassing, but we'll get it. We'll get it. We need to make
we'll
sure that
figure it
we
out.
give, the player the due, but, that's what happens when you get older as well, then you get a little more forgetful. But
Yeah.
there's a class of 5, that are going in and, obviously well deserved.
And the thing is when you see the individual accolades that you've had in your career, I want to ask you, Tram, in your honest opinion, what was it? I have an idea what it was about you that made you so successful because I got to see you every day, and Lou was kind of the same way. Um, but you guys led by example. You were so great to watch because you were even keel. I never saw you get mad. I never saw you. It was always you were even keel and you came to the ballpark every day and you could tell that you wanted to win and you worked hard. And it's like when we talk to a true Hall of Fame player, they're different because they do things differently. And I think that at a long time ago in your life, whatever it was, it made you driven to do that. And all the things that you've done in baseball, it's remarkable. There's not too many people that have, you know, won a World Series and being a Hall of Famer, you manage at a major league club. And it's like,
You mentioned the
for
word driven, and I do believe that that is at the top of the list, and it starts, from your upbringing, my parents, and
yeah,
having the structure and the discipline, which I still believe in, even though it's a little different nowadays. We know that, but hey, it's always been different generations and the style,
yeah,
just the coaches and the people that touched my life, my mentors. But I was driven, and, I look back
yes,
on that, Rob, and I think, again, as young, naive players, um, I didn't really know what I know now, but I'm thankful that I listened. I didn't always like some of the things maybe, but I kept my mouth shut, And I worked and was extremely driven to be a good major league player. And at my size, just think back to years ago when I was, even in little league, I wasn't very big, but I was a good athlete. I had good hand-eye coordination, so I could
Yes.
put the ball in play and I could catch and throw the ball. And from that,
Yeah.
kind of how things started. And you know what? It was just always something that I wanted to do. Baseball was my first love. And when I started dreaming, when I was just a little boy, you know, I know a lot of young boys have that dream, but again, it worked out for me. But there was a lot of things that I did that I really didn't realize why I was doing them. I just did it because I loved it. My parents
Yes.
never pushed me in anything
Me neither.
in sports. It
Me
was just
neither.
something that I had from within, and then I had the good coaching and good mentors to lead me in the right direction, and lo and behold, it led to a 20-year major league career, but, obviously, there's a
In a
few things in between there, but as you mentioned, I think I've said this 3 or 4 times about the drive, being driven is something that I did not like making right turns when I was hitting, and even though I wasn't that big, it just it really fueled my fire, and what a right turn means to the fans, if they don't understand that, means that if you hit the ball, you peel off to the right, that means you go back to the dugout. If you make a left turn, that means you got on base, which obviously that's the object of the game. And so kind of
Right.
stuff that again, it kind of just fueled my fire that I just don't let the looks deceive you. Again, not being big and all like that. But the fact of the matter is that drove me. And then the defensive part, with Lou and myself being up the middle, it was an era that if you look back on how the game was played at that particular time, today, if I was coming up with my size and not being able to hit the ball and drive the ball, they probably wouldn't have brought, Lou and I up as early as they did. I'm thankful they did, but we could play defense first and foremost. We could catch the ball. And if we wouldn't have, they would have kept us in the minor leagues. So
Right.
I say that I came up at 19 and Lou came up 20, which is unheard of. They don't do that. We'll talk about Robin a little bit. Robin came up at 18, but
Right.
in the history of the game, there's not too many players. There's just a few that were, brought up to the major leagues as teenagers or 20 years old and stayed. And both Lou and
Yeah.
I were able to do that.
But they wouldn't bring up Lou or you or Robin
Right.
if they didn't know the makeup. They knew the makeup that you guys could get there and you could play there, and they wanted you there, and it worked out perfectly, you know?
Well,
Um,
being, having Robin's name with myself and Lou, and obviously I get a chance to see Robin at the Hall of Fame each and every year. And, we competed against each other. But after baseball is really when I got a chance to really know him and meet him. And what a quality person. And he's one of my favorite when we competed. So like a George Brett, um,
oh, yeah.
I don't like to lose. I don't like
Yeah.
to get beat, but I do respect the game and respect the better players that go about it the right way. Robin Yount, like a Derek Jeter, you compliment somebody. When they hit the ball, they always run to first base, hard. And
Hard.
we're complimenting, but isn't that how you're supposed to play the game? Isn't that
Right.
how we were brought up when we were playing? So, but those guys were able to do that, even in the major leagues. Unfortunately, some guys don't do that, and but there are a few that do, and a lot of them are in the Hall of Fame because they get it. And
You
again,
know, and
Robin was as you played with him, and
yeah.
what he brought to the table. Maybe
Well,
in
I was lucky. I got to
yeah,
play with both of you. I
well,
was lucky. I got to play with both of you guys. I mean, it's like, and there's so many parallels. Jim Gantner, Gumby, and Robin were together. Not like you guys as far as that, but
for a
that
long time.
camaraderie.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, you know,
And you
it's
had
hard to
Paul Molitor
explain.
in there too.
Yeah,
And you had
Paulie
a
was
bunch of guys we're missing, but with Paul obviously being in the Hall of Fame as well, and we came up at the same time as well. Competing against Milwaukee at that time in the American League East. People forget, that was a while ago that Milwaukee was in the American League and we were
right.
all in the American League East, which we could also call it the American League Beast because
Right?
top to bottom, that was you were slugging it out on a nightly basis, top to
It
bottom,
was fun.
really good
That
team. You really, you were.
Toronto,
You were.
Toronto and Boston
Toronto,
and Yankees. You guys,
Baltimore, Boston. I mean, yeah,
like the American League East was it.
they were some really good baseball teams, and they got after it. And again, every player is going to probably say the same thing that our era was the best or whatever. I mean, that's subjective, but we had a real good
Yeah.
era, and we played baseball. And playing for Sparky, somebody that I respected as my number one mentor in baseball. Uh,
Mhm.
we were taught how to play baseball the right way, and I'm very appreciative. Again, after the fact, it's like, well, we did what we were told, and there was a method to his madness. He knew what he was doing, and fortunately, the group that was there, our core guys, bought into that, and ended up playing for Hall of Fame manager, one of the best managers of all time.
Yeah, and like some of the stuff that Cess was on a couple of weeks. Cecil, yeah, and we talked and talking about Sparky. I had some great managers. George Bamberger with Milwaukee, he was the one who gave me my chance. I'm forever grateful to him. But Sparky Anderson, in my book, was by far the greatest man I ever played for, and I respected him. I loved Sparky Anderson, and just it's crazy because I remember the day that I got traded to Boston. It was kind of like, you know, it was strange because I didn't really want to go anywhere. I wanted to stay there because I always felt comfortable in Detroit, and I always felt comfortable. And I mentioned this to Cecil the other day, but that the Detroit fans, you play in Detroit, I don't remember any time ever where those fans ever booed us. I really don't.
Well, it happened over the years, but only because actually the player deserved it. He had said something uh,
Oh yeah.
to irritate but Detroit is a special. I mean, to me, obviously, that was the only place that I played, and they call it a blue collar town. It is. There's other cities that are similar to that and support their teams, but
Oh
Detroit,
yeah.
because I that was the only team that I played for. I know that for a fact. And if they saw you giving the effort, even though at some point, and you know what, um, you play 162 games, regardless of how good you are, you're going to stink sometimes.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
It's rare for you guys, but we did. Yeah.
And so it's the guys, the next day you flip this, you turn the page. The adversity is really when you find out about players, about when they're down, do they have the ability to get back up off the mat? And so
Right.
again, going back to kind of like the blue collar fans, they understand that, they see that, and they feel with you. Even though sometimes when like fans in any city boo, they're not booing you. They're just booing like the play that happened. There's a
Right. Right.
um, but again, the fans in Detroit and Michigan, Tiger fans were great, and I couldn't be more appreciative of them as well because they gave me love for 20 years. They still give me. I'm an old person now. They still go
Yeah.
like,
It's like Robin.
I've played
Robin,
in almost 30 years.
wherever he goes, oh, Robin, yeah. But you and I had a great story. I think it was the year I signed. I was always having issues with my neck. And I had an issue in spring training. It was either the first year or my second year I was there. And you said, well, let's take a trip. I got a kinesiologist that you were going to.
Training. Yeah, you were down here late.
Yeah. And it was like, that sounds great. Let's go. So we got a rental car and we drove to Tampa or something. It took us a couple hours. We drove down there together. And it was the craziest thing that has ever happened. He had a towel. If you remember, he had a towel around my head and he's kind of like stretching. I was just like, wow, this feels really good. And lo and behold, something popped and pow, it went, and I couldn't pick my legs up. I was like, I could not even move my legs. I'm like, Tram, I can't even move my legs. And we sat there and the kinesiologist guy was like, well, he didn't know what to do. And I was sitting there going, I got to get up. I could not even move my leg. And then all of a sudden, about 10 minutes later, I started getting more feeling. And I've never had an issue since then, other than having 3 back surgeries, but my neck's great now.
Oh, I apologize for that. We talked about that, and you know,
We laughed
I'm
all the
gonna
way home.
circulate back, a couple years before in spring training that I remember in spring training, I slid late at the second base and kind of jarred my back. And from that time on, I had some issues. And so something that helped me, and it took me a while to figure out what was the best remedy. And I had somebody in Detroit, and but then I found I was recommended somebody in Florida during spring training, and I would just go there occasionally, and that's where we were talking. And when we were talking, I said, "Well, come on with me. I think I have somebody that might be able to help you." Well, lo and behold, it wasn't the right one for you, and
But it was
I feel bad today. What you tell
no, no. I thought it was great because we have a good story. You know what I
Well, it
mean?
is a good story, and but 3 back surgeries later,
Yeah,
that's not good. I know that
yeah,
always the rehab for backs, with any surgery is a pain, but, things that as an athlete you have to do, obviously, but,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what?
I've
But
I've had
that is a true story for sure.
yeah, yeah. I want to ask you a question. I hope it's not too kind of controversial. I can't ask this to too many people, but in your own opinion, what's more gratifying? What's more special to you? Winning a World Series or being a Hall of Famer? And I know it's a tough question. I'm not trying to set you up, but it's like it's
It
two of
is a
the
very difficult question, and in this, I mean, it's
yeah.
like 1A and 1B, or
I
even
don't think
closer to that. But here's how I'll explain it, Rob, and I mean this. I mean, winning the World Series, okay, is number 1. And the reason if I wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame if all that other stuff didn't happen.
right,
Because of playing for the Tigers and we're winning a world championship and having successful seasons for all those years for the most part is what allowed me to get to the Hall of Fame. And so
right,
even if it wasn't, the Hall of Fame, it did take me a little longer because I was again voted in the Veterans Committee. I was actually at a point in my life that I didn't think it was going to happen, and I was okay with that. I mean, again,
really,
it had been, I had been on the ballot for 15 years, and I out for 5, on the ballot for 15 for the players, so that's 20. And so it's like, well, year after year after year, I come up short, and it's like, okay, I'm after the first few years, like, well, maybe. Well, it didn't happen for basically 20 years. So you kind of get past that. It's like, okay, I'm going to live my life and continue to do. Still been in baseball, which I've been very blessed to be able to still, put a uniform on and work with our
right,
players. So I'm just being honest. It's like, okay, you know what? It's not going to happen for me, and I'm okay with that. I know I was a very successful player, had a lot of things that I did, and I'm very proud of. But okay, it wasn't quite good enough for the Hall of Fame. And then lo and behold, the first year I got off of the regular ballot, my group came up, and then lo and behold, I was elected along with Jack Moore. So it was kind of like, oh wow,
yeah,
obviously an honor, and that's an understatement. Believe me, when you sign your name now and you put HOF, that
yes.
oh my God, uh,
That
each and every
like
time I write that, it something clicks with like, wow, this is very special. Uh,
and
you know,
it should
that is
because
true. Again, I followed the game since I was a little boy. I respect the I
in
know a little
Garden
bit about
Grove.
the history. Um, and you know what? It's again, I've said cool a few times, but that is very cool. But so to go back to your question, and I'm answering about being a Tiger, and it wouldn't have happened without, playing. So it's
Yeah.
1A and 1B, very, very close. And not to slide any of them, but if I had to rank them, it's playing for the Tigers all those years.
Yeah. That's a great answer. Because, when everybody I mean, everything in Detroit, and I say this because it was supposed to be like that. Everything was Alan Trammell and everything was Lou Whitaker and everything was, and it's just I don't think I've ever told anybody this, but I remember the day when Sparky called me in. We had a day game in Detroit, and he said, "You're not playing today. You got traded. You're going to Boston." And it was kind of weird because I don't think I ever had this feeling with any other team. I mean, Milwaukee was like that was my um, starting point. But there's so many nice people. There were so many nice people in Detroit. Mr. Illich, and Sparky and his coaching staff, the fans, the players that we had. Like I walked out of the clubhouse, um, going to get in a cab to get a flight, and I had tears in my eyes because it was just the camaraderie and the just the really cool people, and I just really liked playing there. And it was, we got to drive in Mr. Elitch's flying his plane, his private Domino's airplane all the time. That was always fun. But it was a really,
That the Red Wings, the hockey team, the baseball team, we had our own plane. So,
yeah,
we were one of the first, I mean, not the first, but one of the first that we had our own private plane. And, back in the day, people don't realize that a lot of
right?
flights we took commercial. And
Yeah,
that's just how it was. But, you played in Milwaukee. We know you started with the Giants, but Milwaukee and Detroit, your first two stops really as far as for any length. And, again, Milwaukee was a good baseball town as well. But hey, I'm biased about Detroit, again, playing my whole career there. And
sure.
we had a good time. But I'm going to start, and it's always about Sparky and the culture and how he mentored us and taught us the game. And he wasn't a very big man, was he? He was
No,
small by stature, but he knew what the heck he was doing. And his mind was obviously trying to do what's best for the baseball team. And again, I think I mentioned him more than once in my Hall of Fame speech, but I needed to, because
yeah, absolutely.
he meant that much to me, as far as, not only as a baseball player, but off the field, teaching us how to be respectful. Again, things that my parents did, but Sparky was really like an extension of my parents. And
Right.
Lou and I, we played for him, Sparky, for out of the 20, 17 of those years were with Sparky Anderson. So I think the fans can kind of understand a little bit, know why I spoke or speak so highly of him, because he was a big part of my life, and
Yeah.
a long time to play for one manager.
I was lucky to play for him for 3 years, and I would have loved to play my whole career with him. I mean, he made you feel like you were special, and he made you feel like he had a way about him.
He just had a
I
way.
just,
It's hard to describe, because he'd be the first one to say, like, one of his mentors or idols was Casey Stengel. And, if you followed baseball and the Stengelisms, his grammar wasn't very good. And like Sparky, you had graduated like myself, a high school. I signed out of high school, so I don't
me,
have
me
the
too.
background, the education, but obviously street smart. And Sparky was just knowing people. That's a talent in itself, and that's what all
Yeah,
the good managers have. They understand people. They know how to push the right buttons, and that doesn't mean that he didn't get on our what sometimes, because he
sure.
did, especially when we were younger and trying to establish ourselves. We thought we were really good. Well, we were good talent-wise, but we had no idea how to win and how to do it, how to play the game to win at
Right.
a professional level, which is what one of the things that Sparky taught us. But, that's not easy to do. I mean, people say, "Oh, the manager doesn't mean anything," just, they got this team, and, you just run these guys out there. It's not quite that easy. It's really not. And, I think people sometimes need to hear that, because the manager, when again, he pushes the right button and can kinda, there's egos involved and things like that. And when you have that, you have the right guy leading the captain of the ship, you're a little ahead of the curve, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And I never heard anybody say anything a bad thing about him. I never saw, other teammates saying, "Oh yeah, Sparky's doing this." There was never any of that. It was just like
Oh, I'm sure
we
there was a
played.
few things, and
Yeah.
when we first came, we got rid of a few, players. I find this hard to believe. So one of the things that's said over the years is that, Sparky didn't like the young players. And he liked the veterans. And I'm like, wait a second. You got all this group. You got Lou, myself, and Jack, and Lance Parrish, and Kurt
Trent
Hudson,
Lemon.
and Chuck. And I was like, whoa, we're young.
Yeah.
They're all young guys, and they're saying now he doesn't like young players. I'm like, nah, that's totally false. That is
Yeah, Travis Fryman was a young player, and he
Travis
loved
Clinton
Travis,
came up when we were there. He was a young
right?
player. He learned, and he'll tell you the same thing that we're saying. That
He
was
will.
again years later, but Sparky was doing the same thing to Travis as he did to all of us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
good stuff.
What are your thoughts of the game today?
Um, well, when you ask me again, I'm entitled to my own opinion, and so I'm
Sure.
saying that uh, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just I have my opinion. Now, the first thing that I'll say that I like is the pitch clock. You know, I always thought years ago that, you know, the one thing about baseball that was good is that there was no clock, you know,
Yeah.
but again, the games were quicker back in our day. There's no doubt about it. And so for whatever reason, that has been and for the fans and just being, you know, somebody that now is still a fan and a part, I do think that that was a good move, a very good move. Um,
I do too. I agree with that one.
the one that I don't like, and I don't want to go into, but the one that I
Yeah.
don't like is what they call the ghost runner, which means that at the start of the 10th inning, you put a man on second. I'm not a big fan of that. There's been some talk. I can tell you that just part of the Hall of Fame, and I can't disclose, but I don't know. But
No, and we're not doing
commissioner,
that.
the commissioner has actually said that they're tabling and they've got committees and they're talking about maybe, you know, starting it in the 12th or just, I'm not, again, just extending it and playing a few more innings of real baseball. I just
Right.
think that starting in the 10th inning it's a little early. I just don't, you know, again, that's just going back to our days that I know that fans don't really want to see a 16, 17, 18 inning game, and I get that. But I do think
Right.
that there should be a couple more innings of regular baseball. And
I
with the
agree.
part of the other thing about what the commissioner was also mentioning, and this is from, you know, people that have been in baseball a long time. Okay, maybe you start at, you know, whatever inning, and maybe you start the runner at first base, not second. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are being discussed, but that's the one that I don't really like. I really
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I'm not crazy about that one. And I'm not too sure about this new one where you're not allowed to go. You have to slide to the base at second base. You're not allowed to like
oh, yeah. Well, I should be the one saying, "You know what? That's great," because I love the fact that I could try to be Houdini and try to get out of the
yeah.
way when guys were trying to come and get me, and that
I
was
saw you all the time.
that was just the way we were brought up that, you know what, I was pretty good at getting out of the way.
Yeah.
And I think most of the guys that play in the middle of the diamond, um, are, know how to get out of the way. Actually, the shortstops have a much easier job getting out of the way because the runner's coming into you, where the second baseman is coming in on the side.
Blinds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the in blindsided. So, you know, Lou or any of the other, you know, I could for some reason, as you're asking me this question, we're talking I'm thinking of, the Royals and the Yankees back in the day when Hal McRae comes sliding in late through the bag,
Yeah.
and I don't know how Willie Randolph didn't get killed and blow out his knee, but he didn't. Thank God he didn't. That was that was playoff baseball. That was they were playing for keeps. But again, getting back to that question about, you know, now, you know, you just have to slide into the bag, and it makes it lot lot more easy to turn to double play, no doubt about
Yeah.
it. But, you know, Don
Yeah.
Taylor, George Brett, how about Glenn Bragg or even yourself, you know, big guy Kirk Gibson, you know, coming in
Yeah.
trying to break up double plays. You know, they meant business, not trying to hurt you, but just, hey,
No.
if there was contact, so be it. And
And
that was the way the game was played.
yeah. And I took pride in that because
Yeah.
I knew that part of what I was going to sell my game, part of it was because I played hard and I played hard every day. I tried to. So when it came to me being on first base, like that was part of my game to take that guy out at second base or try to. Or if I was on second base, a base hit, I was going to try and score. And if I meant running over the catcher, and I did it many times, but to take that all away, and you know, I wasn't being paid to hit 300, but I enjoyed playing hard, and I enjoyed
No.
doing the right things, nowadays, I mean, the sliding into home and all this stuff, it's just so much different. It's like fragile.
Blocking, the throw takes you up the line, you can get in the line because the throw's taking you, but if you start there as the catcher, it's very complicated and
Right.
really difficult. And it doesn't make it any easier on the umpires in that regards. And I know that they want to stay like for all sports, they when Buster Posey got hurt, years ago, that created the issue. And that's a star player, and no sport likes to lose star players. But unfortunately, things happen. But hey, that was a long time ago. There's other things now. They're going into the challenge rule. They're trying it out here in spring training, and I do believe at some point it's coming because it's in the majority of the minor leagues. Because I travel and go to our minor leagues, I see it at different levels, and so I see where it seems like the players are like it, and if the players like it, it's going to be brought to the table. The players will have to obviously approve of it with the Players Association, but I think the owners will definitely agree to have that. And so it's coming at some point. I do believe that, whether or not the people like it or not, I mean, it's coming.
You
Hey,
you got
before,
a
hold
day
on.
off.
I cheated. I looked and I apologize. CC Sabathia is the other one. So
That's right.
DGC, Billy Wagner, along with Dick Allen and Dave Parker. That's the five going in this year. But
Yeah.
well, I brain cramped on CC, but obviously well deserving as well. So
I want to ask you your thoughts because you have an idea. You're in spring training. How do you think the 2025 Detroit Tigers are going to come out?
well, I like our team. I really do. And we've got
You
good
got some good young players.
we got good young players, and we made a run last year. And I'll be the first to admit that come August of last year when we actually sold off, traded a couple of players, um, that we weren't in it at that particular time. And after the moves we made, all of a sudden something clicked. And we actually, over the last 6 weeks of the season, had the best record in baseball. Ultimately got into the playoffs, and we beat Houston in the first round, and we actually had Cleveland down 2 games to 1, and they came back and beat us. But we had a taste.
Yeah.
So going into this spring training, you can just tell the confidence from the players.
That's
After
so
having
cool.
successful, even though we're still kind of on the outside. I don't think too many people are really talking about the Detroit Tigers. But AJ Hinch at the helm has done a tremendous job. The players have bought in. We're an aggressive team. We've got good pitching. We play good defense, and our offense is somewhat timely. And not the biggest name guys, but I like our chances, and we get after it. And again, the game is the number one component. Always has and always will is pitching, and we have.
Yes.
And so, with that being said, I just like our chances of competing in the American League Central, which has gotten better. I mean, Kansas City is a much better club. Cleveland, who won last year, who would have thought them? Nobody thought
Right.
Cleveland was going to win. They won like 92 games, and the Twins are a pretty good ball club as well. I mean, they had a little bit of a down year, so we'll see. That's why you play the season. That's why you play the games. But I do like our chances. I think that, again, going back to last year, we have the confidence that's gonna give us a good lift this year. And we get to start off with the defending champions. The Tigers open up in LA after LA plays a couple games in Japan,
Yeah.
play, and then they have to take a break, and then we come back. We come out to the West Coast and start off against the Dodgers. So it'll be interesting, but
It's going to be fun.
got to play them all anyway. So why not play
Absolutely.
the best right out of the chute? Um,
Yeah. Have the Dodgers start off 0-3
well,
as they leave.
you know what? I have nothing to do with it, nothing to say, but I'll be watching. And again,
Tram, you'll always have something to do with the Detroit Tigers, no matter what.
well, I
You're
appreciate that. Al Kaline was Mr. Tiger, but our old
That's another
friend,
one.
that was, that's a very classy, and that he gets all the respect as he deserves, and he's Mr.
Yes.
Tiger. But you remember our friend, our teammate Tony Phillips. He came up with this little saying about that's Tiger Tramp, that's Tiger Tramp. And some
Yeah.
people still
Yeah.
say that. But if Tony Phillips was around the corner and I heard him laugh, I would say
Oh,
that's Tony Phillips. I mean, that. It's
yeah.
a laugh that
Mm.
we would never forget. And what a player and what a good teammate he was during
The
his time
best.
with the Tigers as well.
I
Sack,
love Tony Phillips. Everybody loved him.
good guys, man. And
Good
we
guys.
got after it as well. We
Yeah.
sure did.
I want to mention two people that, you mentioned Al Kaline, and that was one of the reasons when I walked out of that clubhouse and I had tears in my eyes leaving because of Al Kaline, because of Alan Trammell, because of Cecil Fielder, because, it's like all these people, they were always good people around us. Right. And it was just like, I had that feeling like I was leaving and I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go to Boston. I wanted to stay in Detroit, but it worked itself out. And, everything has a meaning. I'm really glad that I got a chance to play over there. And I'm really glad I got a chance to see a true professional each and every day. I know I wanted to talk about one last thing, your glove. It's like it's the greatest thing ever. I got to explain this to you. The first time, I think we were in spring training, my first year after I signed, and I kept looking down in the dugout, and I'm like, that is odd. What are they doing to that glove? Remember? Because you always had it bent backwards,
Yeah,
the
I
fingers.
did. I made some adjustments as I got older. But I wanted a flat. So I'm using my hand if you could see. So
Yeah.
if you have like an outfielder's glove is a deeper, you break them in sideways so the
Right.
ball goes deeper and obviously it's a longer glove. Not that long, but a longer glove. So with an infielder, especially the middle infielder, it's a smaller glove. And I wanted the ball so I could get in and out, in and out. And
And
so
you did that better than
I
anybody.
broke it in. I broke it in. I mean, actually, it would bend over and fold that way, but I actually was always doing that, always
Yeah.
that to keep the surface bigger because when those hot ground balls are coming, I wanted a little more surface with my hand. If I had this, you can see that it's not as much. It makes a lot of sense. Now, not everybody could do it, and I had hurt my arm a few years before, um, that I had a labrum tear and had some, surgery, so I had lost a little bit. So I was trying to make up for that by getting
Mm.
in and out, in and out, in and out, and that's, again, really the latter part of my career is how I played, and I was able to still, play at a high level, but that was really the one adjustment that I did, and again, Omar Vizquel, if obviously that's a name that's in the
Great
well,
shortstop.
but a great shortstop. He had the same kind of thing because his arm, again, Ozzie Smith didn't have the strongest arm as well. Got a little extra when we needed it, but most of the time we were accurate and got the ball in and out of that glove and got it over to first base, which is obviously more important. So people would always say, "Tram, you got me by half a step." And
Yeah.
you know what? The good shortstops, I will say that we have like an internal clock. We just sense things a little bit more. You just kind of know peripheral vision, kind of
Sure.
where the runners, and you knew when you had a little more time and when you didn't. But if I didn't have to throw it like 100% and just be accurate, that was kind of my mo. That's kind of how I played for the majority of my career. But you were pretty observant right there. But it was a pancake glove, and
And I
you
remember
have
this.
good hands to do that.
Yeah, I remember this. I don't know if you're going to remember this, but my first probably couple weeks of spring training, I kept looking and I was like, and then somebody had said, yeah, that's Tram's glove.
Just
And you always,
face and stepped on it.
yeah. And so I was talking to you one day and we were talking about your glove and I was like, and we know as players, you never stick your hand in somebody else's glove, especially a shortstop, second baseman. And I was talking to you, and I go, this is crazy how this is, and I see how it works. And I remember your hands being so quick, and it was like that's how you feel it. And you said to me, you said, "Well, go ahead, you can put it on. I don't care." And I was like, "There's no way," because remember how big my hand is. I was like, I didn't even put my hand in it, but it was just like it was so cool because that glove sat on top step wherever it was. It was always in the same place. Your hat was put on there perfect, and
Well,
it
sure,
was
the same spot, and but if you think about,
yeah,
again, now I'm kind of switching gears, but, we talk about bats. You Most people today, I use a knobless bat, and,
right.
that was because of going back to when I was, a little boy and I wasn't big and strong. They say, "Oh, use this, it's got better balance." It was a little thicker handle, and again, you choke up because there's not a knob that you could wrap your pinky around, so you have to
And
choke up. And that was just my style. But even today, when people would say, "Well, hey, Tram, what kind of bat you use?" "Oh, I used a D143, which was a little different version of a U1." And when people
right,
look at those bats, they
skinnier,
go, "Oh my god, that was." I was like, "Hey, it worked for me, man." I could use
right?
Whitaker's bat and play like wiffle ball in batting practice. But when I got into a game, it wasn't me. And I did use way back a couple times, didn't get any hits. Oh, Rob, so if you change bats and you get a couple hits, you're gonna
Boom,
boom, right?
there it is. Yep.
So,
Paulie used a no knob bat as well,
yeah. Again,
and
it's got a little more balance, but again, it's not for everybody, and I'm not saying that's what people use. Because first of all, like a glove, if you're not comfortable with it, you're not comfortable with your bat,
exactly.
you don't feel good, so that, throw that out, put that to the side. But, it worked for me, and that's all that mattered, whatever works for you.
That's all that matters,
Yeah,
and it
whatever
worked
works
for
for you.
you.
Yeah.
It worked for you for 20
Yeah,
years,
I mean,
and it
again, it was who I was, and, again, even keel is what you say. I take that as a compliment, even though inside, man, it was churning, man. I can tell you that. I was ramped up, man. I was ready to go. I just, again, still today, what keeps me going is being around these young kids.
yeah,
Keeps me
it's fun.
younger. It is fun, and so
Yeah,
I'm hoping, the Tigers have allowed me to be a part for the last 10 years. I've been kind of back doing this, special assistant, but really I'm just kind of another rover, just another person another value, that Scott Harris and Jeff Greenberg allow me to send them reports and just tell them what I think and what I feel. And then I pop into Detroit and know that I get the best of both worlds. I played, I've done it, but now I get to be with these young kids, and that again keeps
yeah, but you deserve that, Tram.
well.
You've
I
worked hard, you
appreciate that.
played hard.
I don't know if I do
Yeah,
a lot, but that's just me, and that's what I love.
I hope the Tigers go out and beat everybody up this season, and,
That would
you
that would
know
be nice, but hey, we had some good times together. Uh,
yeah,
and again,
we really did.
one thing again with the bond of fraternity that we have as major league players, ex-major league players. Obviously, we're not
Yeah.
playing
It's
anymore,
kinda like
but
it's
it's a
kinda like
fraternity we have forever, ever.
yeah.
That's
That's exactly and that's the way we look at it, and that's why it's so great because, like, I hadn't talked to Sess for years,
right.
and it's as soon as you start talking, it's like, bam, you're right back in the same
I'm shaking my head.
yeah,
I
level.
smile. What a teammate. What a run he had.
Oh,
When he came over from Japan, he went over there, Toronto didn't think he could play anymore. He goes over there and then he comes back to Detroit and then ends up winning the World Series with the Yankees. And what a run he had, man, but a special guy as well.
another name I wanna mention because I played with him at 2 different places, San Francisco and Detroit, the late Dave Bergman. What a great guy he was,
Yeah.
and
Again, we're saying this way too often about guys, and they left us too early. And but Bergie was what I call would be an unsung hero. A lot of people don't know that name, but we do because he was our teammate. And when
that's
he was
exactly
asked
right.
to go out, and he really wasn't a starter for really any part of his career, but whenever he was plugged in there, he was ready to go.
Yeah,
And, the life lessons and just kind of being a father figure and all of those things, you don't they don't make them like that anymore. And then again,
no,
he's been gone now 10 years.
yeah.
Unbelievable, 10 years.
Yeah, what a
Yeah,
great
what a
teammate,
great teammate as well. But we need guys like that. I mean, again, it would be nice to have, all these great players, but it wouldn't mesh. It wouldn't work. And
right.
you need guys like a Dave Bergman on your club to make it all come together. and tell
Yeah,
you
we were lucky. We had the right
pull
chemistry.
yourself. Sometimes he would knock you down or pump you
Yeah.
up when you were down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Dave Bergman is I miss him. I think about him so often, to be honest with you.
I don't know if you ever do this, but I had an old Corvette that I bought, and I used to drive it to the ballpark in Detroit every once in a while.
Oh, you stayed
And
out in Grosse Pointe, didn't you?
yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
I was out there. Yep.
So Bergie lived by me, so I would pick him up on Sundays, and this thing was like a race car, and I would drive it to the ballpark back and forth. I loved driving it. And I used to scare him so bad that I'd call him. I'd say, "You want me to pick you up?" And he goes, "Well, are you driving the Corvette or are you driving your truck?" And I was like, "Well, I'll drive whatever one." He goes, "Okay, drive the truck," because he got a little bit nervous.
Wow,
But,
yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, all those things I'd never forget.
I got you. But, you know,
Never forget.
yeah, again,
Tram, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go enjoy the rest of your day off. And I tell you, it was a true pleasure having you here, and it's always fun talking to you.
my pleasure. I'm so glad that you called me. And, you know, now again, you know, it didn't take me a month to get back to you. That's how I like to do things. I said, you know what, we need to do this now because the longer I would have waited, you know, who knows what would have happened. So again, man, congratulations on the new gig. Happy for you. Let's keep in touch.
All right, Tram, and all the accolades, everything that's well deserved. And I'm really glad. I'm really happy that I can say that I was a teammate of yours. You made a lot of difference. You made a big difference to everybody that was in that locker room. I promise you.
Much appreciate it.
Okay, I'll be in touch. See you. Thanks, Tram.
All right. You're welcome.
Hello, everybody. This is Rob Deere. I just wanted to personally thank each and every person that is involved with our podcast. I appreciate you guys sitting down and listening to some of the greatest guests that you could ever have. These guys, I've said it before, these guys are great people, and they just so happen to be great baseball players. So it's been a lot of fun for me. I hope it's a lot of fun for you, and I really do appreciate all the followings and all the comments. Everything sounds great. Let's have some more fun.